If you know me, you know that I am a voracious reader, verging on obsessive, actually. If I go a day and I don't read for at least an hour, I actually do beat myself up a little bit. I feel guilty because I know that there is so much knowledge out there and I just want to be constantly absorbing it because I can attribute millions of dollars that I've made for myself and my clients to books that I've read, from learning information and then taking that information, absorbing it, and applying it. It has been life changing, and it's completely transformed my approach to the way that I do business. So I'm a huge fan of reading, and today I want to talk about sales books, because if you're in any capacity of business or of life, or obviously if you're in sales, then the ability to sell is crucial. If you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're trying to start a business, if you cannot sell, you're not going to get anywhere. And I know this firsthand because all throughout my teenage years, I tried to start businesses and they just kept failing and failing and failing. And then when I was 21, I got a job in sales and I learned how to sell and I became quite good at sales. And then I tried to start a business. And lo and behold, it was incredibly successful because I knew how to get clients. And even if you're not in business, it's really helpful to know how to sell, to know how to influence, because in some way, even if that's deciding, where to go for dinner tonight, it's really helpful to know how to influence people to get your way. It's a very valuable skill in any walk of life and business. So today we're going to talk sales books, and in particular 3 sales books that had the biggest impact on me and that I think are quintessential to read if you want to be a master of sales. So let's dive in. First and foremost, we have this book here, Influence by Robert Cialdini, an absolute classic in the business world and an absolute classic in the marketing world and the sales world, because the concepts in this book span the fundamental elements of influence, of which sales is a very big part of. So if you can master these foundational skills, I'm a really big fan of doing that, mastering the foundations before getting into the nuts and bolts and the nuance. This is the book to begin with. And today, even to this day, I read this book every single year because every time I read it, it's like a refresher on the fundamental concepts of how to influence and persuade. And I've actually taken so many concepts from this book, applied them into my agency, and it's part and parcel of the strategies that we operate now, whether that be around building social proof or authority or the law of reciprocity. These are all key concepts within the book that are grounded in science. They're grounded in tests in the real world and looking at how people influence and get influenced. And in fact, the concepts in this book are so powerful that a word of warning: use them ethically, because used unethically, you could actually do some damage, with this information because it's so powerful. For example, the law of reciprocity, super powerful psychological tool that people can use for good or for bad. You can use them obviously to grow your business. If you have an ethical business, then crack on. But word of warning, if you try and use some of this stuff in the wrong field, could get you in some trouble because it is that powerful and that effective. So that is where I would begin for learning the basis, the fundamental basis of sales and marketing and of influence and of persuasion, is this book right here. Next up, we have The Challenger Sale. So this is a great book on sales, and it's the first book that I read on sales that I thought, actually, this really applies to the modern era. There are a lot of old classic sales books from 20-30 years ago that give you a good kind of solid fundamental understanding of like good salesmanship and how to sell. But this book goes a little step further, and they actually researched the different archetypes of salespeople, and they uncovered a bunch of different sales personality types, from the lone wolf to the relationship builder. And what they found was that the most effective sales archetype was that of the challenger. Now, the challenger is an individual who boldly goes into sales conversations, puts across ideas, puts across new ideas, and by the name of what they do, they challenge the perceptions of their potential clients. They challenge their current thought patterns. And what this does is it builds incredible trust, and it positions them as credible experts, as trusted advisors. And that's where you want to get to. They actually dispelled a common misconception in this book that you have to be liked in order for people to buy from you. Yes, it will help if people like you, for sure. But what's more important is that they trust you. And those are actually two different things, because if you are like a really likable person, but somebody's like, yeah, that person's really nice, they're really, I'd go for a beer with them, it doesn't necessarily mean that they trust to do business with you. And just think about that from your friendship group. You have people that you really, really like, but you may not necessarily go into business with them, and vice versa. You may not like someone loads, but you think, actually, I would trust that person to get the job done. And that is what a challenger does. So I highly recommend reading this book to figure out what is the most effective personality type of a sales person. Finally, we have the 12-week year. So I've talked about this book right here before on the channel, but it's not a very mainstream book, so I like to give it some love. I like to give it a shout out and some attention, because it was a really, really impactful book for me. And as you can see, a very, very short read, but a very impactful read. And the biggest takeaway for me from this book in relation to sales is that the actions that you take cannot be underestimated. A lot of people have these goals, they set goals for themselves, but then they don't think about what are the specific activities that I need to do to reach that goal. And this is what this book will show you how to do, how to take a goal, reverse engineer it, create those micro steps that you need to be doing on a daily and weekly basis, and actually create a framework for doing that. And it shows you the power of, if you have a goal, all you need to do is follow a set of simple steps. And if you follow them consistently and diligently over time, you will reach that goal. So in a sales perspective, that could be, how many calls do you need to have on your calendar to reach your revenue target? And then you can backtrack from there. What do you need to be doing in your marketing? How many people do you need to be reaching out to in your social media campaigns and your email campaigns? So you can actually backtrack the exact activity from start to finish of achieving your goal. And this will create a very clear path for you to do that. So there we have it, 3 books that I recommend to become a sales master. We have Influence by Robert Cialdini, we have The Challenger Sale, and we have The 12-Week Year. If you read these books, I promise you, you will be further ahead in your journey at becoming a master salesperson and being successful in your business. So I hope that was helpful. Until next time, all the best and take care.